Hare Krishna, everybody. Dandot Pranams and welcome to our Bhakti Sastri study. So today we are going to start chapter 6, and title of this chapter is Dhyana Yoga. So we talked about Karma Yoga, and in Karma Yoga we want to do the pure Karma Yoga, which is Niskam Karma Yoga. At the same time, Karma Yoga has to be blended with the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. So we studied about transcendental knowledge, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga. So perfect and pure Karma Yoga with pure Niskam Jnana Yoga. We studied that we have to do Bhakti. And then after that, now we are moving to chapter 6, where we are going to study about Dhyana Yoga. So with this chapter 6, we are basically going to finish the first 6 chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And then after 6th chapter, we will be getting into, detailed discussion about Bhakti Yoga. And then finally, we'll conclude with Jnana Yoga. So before I get into details of this chapter, the slide is not moving. Okay, so this chapter has basically 47 verses, and these 47 verses are put into 5 subsections. So first 9 verses, we are going to study how to advance in Ashtanga Yoga, which is beginning of the Ashtanga Yoga from Aruruksha to Arudha stage, the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga. And then from verse number 10 to 32, we will discuss about the stages of Ashtanga Yoga practice. What are the different stages? And then 33 to 36, necessity of controlling the mind, because that's one of the goal of Ashtanga Yoga. And then 37 to 45, the destination of unsuccessful yogi in every process. In Bhakti Yogi also, in Bhakti Yoga process also, there is chance for one to fail. So likewise, if somebody is failing into the process of Ashtanga Yoga, what is destination for that purpose, for that person? And then finally, last 2 verses will summarize that Bhakti Yogi are the topmost yogi. So that's how this chapter flows. And this chapter could be a little bit more tactical, and it may appear as we are going through this chapter, it may lead us in a direction where we'll feel like that, oops, now I'm getting kind of lost, or I'm getting kind of a little bit confused. This could happen. So before I get into the next slide, I wanted to also share that I would ideally like to cover up to 30 to 32 verses in one session. There is no need to unnecessarily, rush and try to, have so many verses and not getting the enough insight into the topic. So since this is kind of little longer chapter, today we'll basically complete up to 32 verses, first 2 subsection of this chapter, and then from 33 to 47, we'll have a second session, part 2, that we'll do on next Saturday. What that will do is that if somebody of you or anybody of you who would need some extra time to catch up your homework, then, kind of little bit slowing down here will give you some time to, catch up with your homework. And also after these 2 sessions, we'll have again, kind of review from the a beginning, and we'll kind of, go chapter by chapter and have some more discussion and prepare ourselves for the exams, and then we'll have the exam for module 1. So that's what my plan is. So for this chapter, before we get into the details, I would like to basically make few points very clear. So as usual, there is a process and there is a purpose. So process basically comprise multiple details, rules, guidance, guidelines. But purpose is trying to focus on the outcome, trying to get the essence of what we are trying to get to. So that's what we are going to see while we are going through this chapter. We have to focus more on the purpose. Process, we have to go through it. We have to see the details of the process, but our focus is more on the purpose. For example, Supreme Personality of Godhead personally showed his gigantic form, but that forms basically should remind us to remember the two-arm forms of the Krishna, that simple form of the Krishna. There are complex Sanskrit mantras that can be used to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But our purpose is that to remember Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and always chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There are difficult asanas and posture that can be used to control the mind and come to the stage where mind is fully controlled. But our goal is that we always remember Krishna. We always try to remember Krishna, and we never try to forget him. So asmartavya satatam Vishnu, Vishmartavya na jatasut. The goal is that all the limbs of the bhakti that is given to us, that's given for this purpose, that in whatever stage we are in, we can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Hari. So that's the purpose. But of course, as a human being, we have some shortcomings, we have some limitations, and there will be some distractions. Now we have the knowledge of the perfect karma yoga. We have the knowledge of the perfection of our jnana. But when we are putting them together, there are chances that there will be some disturbances, there will be some distraction. Okay, so the essence that we have to get out of this chapter is that how not to be distracted when we are on the path of bhakti yoga, how we can basically stay focused, such as by controlling our mind and intelligence. Okay, we are driving on a highway, and there are so many details that will come while we are driving through, but we should not be basically getting lost with the details that we are seeing on our highway. Rather, we should know that I have left, my goal is to go to temple. So I'm driving to the temple and I have to go and have the darshan of Krishna Balram. So the purpose for anything, purpose is most important than process. So we have to go through the process with keen focus that purpose is what matters the most. So I just wanted to give you this background so that while we are going through the details of this chapter, we always stay focused on the purpose. So the very first verse, Krishna is saying, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, what he's saying, Anasrita karma phalam, karyam karma karotiya, shash sannyasi cha yogi cha, sa niragnir, na chakriha. One who is unattached to fruits, means who is doing niskam karma. who is not attached to the fruit, who is not attached to sakam karma, who is basically working in as a niskam karma yogi, dutifully performs his prescribed work, is a real sannyasi and a true yogi. So we have seen this similar definition before also. Not he who lights no fire, a person who is not doing any type of sacrifice, or a person who is not engaged in doing the activities for the bodily maintenance or for the enhancement of our consciousness. So a true yogi or true sannyasi is a person who is engaged with detachment, who is acting. We don't want to be ideal. We want to be active, and active in fully detached manner. If we are acting in that manner, then we are basically a real sannyasi or real yogi. So yoga and sannyasa are the same, and we talked that also, that on the platform of bhakti, if the goal is to basically perform bhakti yoga, then for that, yoga and sannyas both are the same, because the goal of both the practices is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are two levels of Ashtanga Yoga, and that we are basically getting in verse number 3rd and 4th. So here is the summary of those two types of Ashtanga Yoga. One is called Yoga Aruruksha, and the second is Yoga Arurudha. So Yoga Aruruksha is the beginning stage of the Ashtanga Yoga, where one is performing the limbs of the limbs of the 8 limbs of the, or one is in a process of performing the limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. At the same time, he is also engaged in duties. He's engaged in prescribed duty with detachment. So there is some action part of it, there is some activity. At the same time, he is following the Ashtanga Yoga. So this is early stage of the Ashtanga Yoga. And Prabhupada is writing, it's like, you have a ladder. So you are walking on the ladder. So you walk on the ladder, and then once you are finished walking on the ladder, then you get to a plateau. Then you get to a place where you stand, and now you are situated there. So just take the example of getting on a roof. So you have a ladder, you use the ladder, and then you get on the roof. So likewise, this yoga or ruksha is a stage where one is basically climbing up and trying to come to the highest stage. And that stage is yoga arudha. Arudha means there is no hindrance now. He has come to the platform where he is fully situated fully situated as Ashtanga yogi. So these are the two stages of Ashtanga Yoga. The first stage is basically a beginning stage, and then the later stage is a mature stage. So the next that flow chart that you are seeing, that I'm showing here, that there are 8 limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. So there are 8 steps in Ashtanga Yoga. And I'm sure that you all might have heard about this. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. And then I'm also giving the definition. What is the Yama? So Yama is basically following some regulations with some prohibition. Doing the things with some guidelines that, what, and in that guidelines, what I don't have to do or what one don't have to do is what kind of emphasize more. And then niyama is basically the do's, rules and regulations and prescriptions that one has to follow. And then the third stage is asana, where the bodily exercise is kind of, recommended. And then pranayama is basically the breathing exercise. And pratyahara is basically controlling the senses. from the sense object. And then the sixth stage is dharana. And dharana, in dharana stage, one is now fixing the mind on the forms of Lord, each and every details, starting from feet of the Lord and going slowly and slowly, thinking that the feet of the Lord is basically the lower planetary system, and going up like that. So in dharana stage, one fixes his mind on the Virat Rupa, or on the form of the Supreme Lord, with very specific, with very keen, focus. And then the seventh stage is Dhyana, where one is in intensified meditation of the Lord. And then the last stage is Samadhi. Sama means complete. Samadhi, with body, mind, intelligence, one is completely absorbed in trance. So if we try to understand where is yoga aruraksha and where is yoga arurudha on that scale, then basically the higher stage of Ashtanga Yoga begins from 7 Dhyana. From Dhyana to Samadhi. These two stages are basically Yoga Arudha stage, the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga. So Samadhi is the stage where one is completely absorbed in trance, in full remembrance of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the basically kind of types of Ashtanga Yoga, and then their limbs. So next sections, basically we are going to study how one can advance in the Ashtanga Yoga practice from Aruruksha to Arudha stage. So verse number 5 and 6 teaches us that mind is both friend and enemy. So in fact, this mind control is very much emphasized in this section, in this chapter. And this mind control can be basically applied when we are performing the Bhakti Yoga also. So some of the lessons that we are hearing here is very, very applicable for Bhakti Yogi. So verse number 5 and 6 basically said that, let me go to it's easier for me to read Sanskrit. So he says, Udhared Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avashadayet Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandhur Atmaiva Ripur Atmanaha. So in this word, there are Atma, in this verse, so many times the word Atma, Atma, Atma is being used. That's so the green part, the green highlighted section that we saw, that is basically verse number 5. And then verse number 6 is Bandhur Atmanastasya Enatmaiva Atmanah Jitaha Anatmanastu Satrutve Vartetas Atmaiva Satruvat. So Atma word is used here a lot. And Atma is basically referring here two things. One of the Atma is basically the soul, and second Atma is mind. Many times you will see Atma is also referred as body. And sometimes you'll also, see that Atma also refers to the self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, somewhere, not many places. So one must deliver himself by the mind. One should not degrade himself. The controlled mind is the friend of the soul. Atma yuvahi atmano bandhur. If the mind is fully controlled, then that is our friend. Atma yuva ripur atmanaha. But if mind is not controlled, then it's our enemy. So that's a very powerful verse that I think we have heard and we are seeing it now, that the control mind acts as a friend, but if mind is not controlled, then that mind acts as an enemy. The mind is the best of the friends for one who has conquered it. It becomes our best friend if we have controlled the mind. And the mind is the greatest enemy for one who has failed to conquer it. So that's how this mind is. Mind, if it's not controlled, it can become our greatest enemy. But if it's controlled, then it is our best friend. So we are seeing in the very beginning of the Ashtanga Yoga here, Krishna is, giving us the idea about the mind, that, mind must be controlled. If mind is not controlled, then we are living with our greatest enemy. So verse number 7 to 9 gives us the idea that what is the symptom of a person who is in the highest stage of Ashtanga Yoga. So he has a controlled mind. So there are points given here. I'll just read the points. He will have controlled mind, and he has attained full tranquility. He is neutral to all dualities, heat and cold, happiness and distress, honor and dishonor. So he has come to the stage where he is free from all dualities. He is satisfied in the Sastric knowledge and realizations. Okay, he has not only Jnana, but he has also come to the stage of Vijnana, realizations. Situated in transcendence and fully controlled. He has self-control. He is a self-realized person, also called as yogi and mystic yogi. So this Ashtanga Yoga has different names. Many people, I think, call it Raj Yoga also, Hatha Yoga. All of these are the name of this chapter. Hatha Yogi, Raj Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. So a self-realized, a person who has advanced in Ashtanga Yoga process, he is also, he's self-realized, and he is also known as yogi or mystic yogi. And then he has come to the stage where he has equal vision of pebbles, stone, or gold. This is very famous. Matrivat Padarvesu Lostvat Atmavat Sarvabhutesu Ayam Pasyati Sa Pandita. So this is the definition of the Pandit. The one has come to that stage where he is seeing Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu. All the living being, he sees him, like himself. Matrivat Padarvesu Lostvat. Other women's, when he looks at other women's, he looks at, as a mother. And property of everybody else, even if it's gold, he looks at as a piece of lump. For him, it's not a gold. So we are seeing here that in advanced stage of Yoga Rudha, in advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga, one come to this stage where he becomes Samadarshi. He's not seeing distinction based upon the bodily feature, because now he's seeing super soul. And then the later, the last basically verse number 9 says that a further advanced person is equiposed to all people, well-wisher, benefactor, the neutral, meditators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and sinners. So he come to that stage where he is basically free from all types of duality, and he is not seeing any distinctions between his well-wisher or his enemy. So that's the basically symptom of a person in Yoga Rudha stage. So if somebody will ask you, what is the symptom of a person who are in the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga, you can write, some of the points that's given here in this verses from 7 to 9. So having described the perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga, now Krishna has given that what is the perfectional stage of the Ashtanga Yoga. Krishna will now describe the methods to achieve these goals. So in next some of the sections, we are going to see what are the methods to come to this stage. So verse number 30 to 32, the stages of Ashtanga Yoga practice is summarized. So from 10 to verse number 17, we are going to basically see the verses which are helping us to understand what are the practicing stage of the Ashtanga Yoga. So what are the practicing stage of the Ashtanga Yoga? That is the theme from verse number 10 to 17. And verse number 10, the key message that we get from verse number 10 is that what are the practices of a person who are in the Yoga Rudha stage? So person who are in the Yoga Rudha stage, how he is basically acting. So from his body, mind and self, he is always in Samadhi. So he has come to the highest stage of Ashtanga Yoga and he is always in Samadhi. Living alone in a secluded place. Wow, this is too much. So that's what he prefers. He prefers, and you will see some of the difficulty of doing this Ashtanga Yoga. He likes staying in a secluded place, always carefully controlling his mind. He's always careful, which is very difficult. Arjuna is asking, my dear Lord, this is very difficult. How I can control my mind? So a person who is in the advanced stage of Yoga Rudha, he is always trying to carefully control his mind, and he's free from all desires and possessiveness. Free from all desires. Can you imagine? We are reading these things, but really, it's very, very difficult. Free from all desires and possessiveness. These are like very tough. Very, very tough. But again, this is basically a very, very advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga. We cannot be desireless. We cannot be desireless. I don't know how that stage comes. So practices in Yoga Rudha stage, the person who are in the Yoga Rudha stage, these are the practices, that he does. He is completely engaged by mind, body, and intelligence in full trance. He likes living in secluded place. He's very carefully controlling his mind, and he's free from all desires and possessiveness. So what are the basic practices of Ashtanga Yoga? So how a Ashtanga yogi, does the basic practice? And you'll see the difficulties of, how the Ashtanga yogi does the basic practice. Sitting firmly in a clean, sacred, and secluded place. Not too high, not too low, on kusa grass with a deer skin and a soft cloth on top. So sitting firmly, fixing the mind on one point, controlling the mind and senses. One should do yoga for purification of the consciousness. So on one point, controlling the mind and senses, one should do yoga for purification of the consciousness. Very difficult. How you can focus your mind on one point. Being erect by keeping the body, neck, and head straight. Being motionless and firm. Staring steadily at the tips of the nose. That's the basically process. Very difficult. I don't know how. It's too tough. Meditating on my form. My form, Krishna is saying here, is Krishna's form. So by taking the proper position of the sitting and fixing the mind and being in proper position in terms of stagnating and putting our body and completely focusing our mind on the Krishna. Withdrawing the mind from sense object, being fearless with a vow of celibacy, making me the ultimate goal of life. So these are the practices of Ashtanga Yoga. Just by reading, I can tell that is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And then verse number 15 is sharing with us what is the goal of the Ashtanga Yoga. Thus, by practicing control of mind and activities with regulated mind, the yogi attains cessation of the material existence, and then ultimately he achieve the Krishna's abode. So that's the goal of the Ashtanga Yoga. And what is the recommendation in the Ashtanga Yoga? Diet. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little. Not too much eating, not too little eating. Sleeping. Don't sleep too much or not sleep too little. And by living such a regulated life with eating, sleeping, recreation, and work in yoga mitigates. By this way, he will basically mitigate all the material suffering. So diet, don't eat too much, don't eat too little. Sleep, don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. And regulate eating, sleeping, and other habits. And by that, the Ashtanga Yogi basically mitigates from all material suffering. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport that all of this can very easily achieved by engaging oneself in Bhakti Yoga. Because in Bhakti Yoga, that's what we are doing. We are eating prasadam, we are regulating our food, we are getting up in the morning, chanting our round, we are regulating our sleeping. By chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra very seriously, hearing each and every syllable of the Hare Krishna Rama when we are chanting, and being in a quiet place and trying to meditate and hear the name of Krishna, we are doing meditation and samadhi. So the thing is that all the so when we look at the limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga, there are people who like something. Oh, Supreme Personality of Godhead is something very big, something very very big. So how one can obtain him? By doing some simple process. How we can just get the mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Rather, they will like to choose some complex ring, sing something like tough Sanskrit mantras. So there are audience who like those kind of things, and by doing that, going to the secluded place and having all type of penances that they are taking, and they are thinking by doing that they are basically going towards Krishna. But Prabhupada is saying that Bhakti Yoga is so sublime and so simple that not only it gives everything that is mentioned here in Ashtanga Yoga, but even it takes beyond. And we'll talk about that. Okay, so all of these things are great, but don't really lose the focus. Okay, we are Bhakti Yogi, and our focus is basically to take the essence out of what we are getting here and apply it to Bhakti Yoga. So perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, so verse number 18 to 23, we are going to see what are the perfect stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Perfection, verse number 18 to 19, perfection in Ashtanga Yoga involves disciplining mental activities or consciousness, vinyatam chitam, being fixed in the self or transcendence, devoid of all material desire. So, just as a lamp on a windless place does not waver, so the yogi whose mind is controlled remains steady in his meditation on the self. So that means a person who is in perfect stage of Ashtanga Yoga, he is fully situated in Samadhi, and he is not disturbed by the dualities that he is exposed to. Like a lamp is not wavering when it is in an environment where there is no wind. And what are the realizations of the person who are in the highest stage of Ashtanga Yoga, consciousness is completely restrained from material mental activities. Very nice. So you can see here, he is not absorbed in the things of the material world. One can see the self by pure mind and be satisfied with it. Self, when we write self in capital S, means we are talking about Krishna. And here basically the focus of Ashtanga Yogi is Paramatma. We'll come to that. So one can see the self by the pure mind and be satisfied with it. One get boundless spiritual bliss by spiritual intelligence, not material senses. So he is getting spiritual bliss by spiritual intelligence, not by material desires. Having obtained this, he thinks there is no greater gain. So we also in Bhakti Yoga, we talk the Brahmbhuta stage. Brahmbhuta prasanatma na sochti na kankti samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labte param. So by Ashtanga Yoga also, he's coming to that stage. The person who is following the Ashtanga Yoga will come to that stage where he will have unlimited bliss. Situated in full determination, one is never shaken even in greatest difficulty. That's samadhi. So he has come to the point that he's not now going to be disturbed by anything, formally fixed. So if you really see that, similar steps we talk, in Bhakti Yoga, that faith, and then, bhajan kriya, anartha nivritti, raga, slowly and slowly we go, and nistha, and then bhava and prema, like that. So something similar is basically being talked here also, that one will come to this samadhi stage where he's fully fixed now. So, and then the next section, basically from 24 to 32, we are going to see that attaining perfection in Ashtanga Yoga is basically realizing the super soul feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's the point to be noted, that Jnana Yogi, they go through the process of Sankhya, which is basically analytical study, and they reach to the point of Brahman. And here the Dhyana Yogi, their perfection basically reach to the point of super soul. Okay, and Bhakti Yogi, their perfection basically reach to the point of Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhir Govinda Sarvakaranam Karanam. So Lord has three features: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Sat feature is revealed in Brahman realization. Sat and Chit feature is revealed in Paramatma realization. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. All these three features are basically revealed in Bhagwan realization. So if you like to, so Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan understanding, that should be clear for us to make it kind of clear to our mind, that what are the goals. Although we are going through the process, but we have to also at the same time see where it's taking us. So with Brahman understanding, we understand the eternity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With Paramatma, we understand eternity and the knowledge part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Bhagwan understanding gives us the eternity features, gives us the knowledge features, and also gives us the bliss, haladini sakti. So that's the beauty of Bhakti Yoga. So here, we went through all of these, difficult process, and the perfection lead us to super soul understanding. So next few of the verses, we are basically going to hear about, the perfectional stage of the Ashtanga Yogi. So verse number 24 to 25, methods to attain Yogarudha stage. This is the highest stage after Dhyana and Samadhi. So practice with determination, without deviation, giving up all material desires, both of mental speculation, controlling all the senses on all sides by the mind. Final stage, gradually coming to trance through intelligence, sustained by full conviction and thus fixed mind on the self alone, thinking of nothing else. So definitely it's very higher stage of the process. So we'll continue moving. Here, we'll continue studying that what are the highest stages of a fully realized Ashtanga Yogi. So verse number 26 is giving us the idea that the success formula in the yoga is bringing the mind back and keeping it focused on the purpose. So, yato yato nishalati manas sanchalam asthiram tatastato niyamayatad atmaniyeva vashamanyet. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw the mind and bring it back under the control of self. So what we are seeing here, one thing very important to be noted, we are talking here a stage where somebody has come to the perfection of the Ashtanga Yoga. And then this point is coming here, that we started with the mind, and then we are coming here and talking about the mind. And we are saying that the mind, mind will go back, mind will try to distract. But the success is that one will try to bring the mind back and stay focused on super soul feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So mind control seems to be kind of going with us from a start up to this perfect stage. So mind control is being said here, that mind control is success formula for the Ashtanga Yogi. So verse number 27 is talking about Brahmbhuta stage, and Brahmbhuta stage is basically the stage when a yogi whose mind is peaceful by being fixed on me, because he has attained supreme bliss, by avoiding all sorts of passion, he is free of sin, and he has realized his original identity in a qualitative manner with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So achinta veda veda tattva. Okay, he has come to that stage where quality-wise, Krishna is saying that Mama Yansa Jiva Rupa, Mama Yansa Jiva Bhuta, Sampurn, the whole, Jiva Bhuta, these living beings are basically my part and parcel. And when he says that my part and parcel, the quality is same. So in the very highest stage of Ashtanga Yogi, the yogi comes to this realization that qualitatively the soul has same feature as the super soul. And then verse number 28 is talking about Brahm Samparsh platform, where a yogi has realized that that the center or the main focus of his yoga practice is to meditate on super soul. So he says that thus by constant practice, the self-control yogi is freed from all sins, contacts the Supreme Spirit, and attain supreme bliss. And that stage is called Jivan Mukta state, liberated even in this life. So sometimes, not sometimes, but many times when we talk about liberation, we think that liberation is something that comes after death. But here, very clearly, in this verse is saying that the Jivan Mukta state is basically the liberated stage even in this life. Mukti hitva swarupena vyavasthita. This is the stage where one has fully realized himself as a spirit soul, part and parcel of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That stage is basically Jivan Mukta stage. So by Ashtanga Yoga practice, one can come to that Jivan Mukta stage. That's what Prabhupada is saying. Our scripture says that all these three personalities, Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and Bhagwan realization, all of these three are very high transcendentalist. They are very powerful personality. So here also, by Ashtanga Yoga, one can come to the stage of Jivan Mukta stage, where he, within this lifetime, is a fully liberated person. Then verse number 29 to 30 is talking about vision of a perfect yogi. He is seeing Paramatma or Krishna everywhere. So now the final culmination, that the Ashtanga yogi has come to the point where he is seeing now Paramatma everywhere or Krishna everywhere. Sarvabhutastha atmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra shama darshanaha. A true yogi observes me, the super soul, in all beings, and also sees everything within me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. So he is now seeing Krishna everywhere as super soul. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami shame na pranashyati. Powerful verse, very beautiful verse. So for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, tasyaham na pranashyami shacha mena pranashyati. Tasyaham na pranashyami. For that person to whom I have not lost, shacha mena pranashyati, that person is also not lost by me. So I am never lost to him, nor he is ever lost to me. So this is a beautiful verse that we are reading here. So that's what happens, in that higher stage of Ashtanga Yoga, person comes in full realization with Supreme Personality of Godhead to his super soul feature. And then he is seeing super soul everywhere. And as he is seeing Krishna everywhere, Krishna is saying that the person for whom I am everywhere, that person is also never lost. They were never lost to me. So this is the essence, beautiful essence we are getting here. So some of the verses that we just studied, 27, 28, 29 to 30, these verses are basically bringing us to the culmination, to the tip, to the topmost point of Ashtanga Yoga. And here, a Ashtanga Yogi is fully situated in the super soul realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the last slide is basically, what are the action of a perfect yogi? So if one has become perfect yogi, then what type of action he does? He worships Krishna. He says, worships me as one, though situated in all entities as super soul, and thus exists in me all circumstances. So he is worshipping Krishna as Paramatma, and he sees all beings equally. So if question will come, what is the action that perfect yogi does? So he worships Supreme Personality of Godhead as super soul, and he sees all living being equally by comparison to his own self, and considers their happiness and distress his own. Samasarvesu bhuteshu Mat Bhakti Labte Param. So he has come to that stage where he is seeing all living beings equal to him. So these are some of the subjects, some of the points that I wanted to basically discuss today. So after hearing all of that, Arjuna is going to raise the questions. Arjuna felt that such equal vision cannot be longer lasting. One can maintain such equal vision for friends or neutral person, but not for enemies. Okay, so after hearing this, Krishna is saying that this type of vision, this samadarshita, is very, very difficult, because we can be samadarshi for the people who are near dear to me. We are samadarshi to the family members. That's I know how far we go, but how we can even see the people who are our enemies as our friend. So Arjuna is saying that that's going to be very difficult. So Krishna will now basically tell Arjuna that how this equal vision can be obtained, and he will start, talking about mind control. Then Arjuna will ask, what happens if one fails by not, what happens if one fails in the process of Ashtanga Yoga? Like, there is failure in every process. What is their destination? And then Krishna will talk about that. And then, finally, he will conclude that although I talked to you about everything, but the best of all the yogi is the yogi who is situated in Bhakti Yoga. So this chapter, although will take us through different process and will tell us, all of the steps that we are just seeing here, like how to, all of this sitting firmly, fixing the mind, being erect, meditating on my form, keeping control on the diet and sleep, and having a very regulated life. All of this process that one has to go through. Finally, at the end, Krishna will say that the most important thing is that you follow Bhakti Yoga. My recommendation for you, Arjuna, is that you try to be Bhakti Yogi. So that's basically this chapter. In part 2 of this chapter, we will have remaining discussions. So with that, I would like to stop here. And Prabhu, can you ask your question? Hare Krishna.
I'm just asking, is there anyone who did, any example of a person who did the Ashtanga Yoga, something like that? It looks to be very difficult.
Yeah, but there are people doing Ashtanga Yoga. There are tons and tons of people who are, Ashtanga Yogi. In fact, in India, there is a Kumbh Mela that happens after every 16 or 12 years, I believe. After every 12 years, all the people who come there, they all are Ashtanga Yogi.